coming from Anthem. It's
You're
coming.
paying your claims. You're just paying what your claims are. So Anthem's not saying pay me $150,000 or $1 million or whatever it is.
Right.
They're not saying pay it more. They're saying we recommend that you put it into your pot because we think
Right.
you're going to spend more. If you don't spend it,
Okay.
you get to keep it.
Okay. That's what I wanted to hear.
Okay.
But if I spend more, then I've got to put more in there. So.
Well, you do have a cap,
Right.
and we're funding very close to the cap, which is maybe funding a little more than we're going to use, but it's we don't want to put you in a position where you have to cough up more money, and then we have to ask for more money.
But it sounds like a good idea to self-insure then.
Yeah, you're actually $240,000 to the good, not necessarily to the good, meaning that your account has $240,000 cash. It means if you would have stayed fully insured with Anthem, you would have spent $240,000 more than you've spent today.
Okay. The last thing is, can we get a 3-month extension on our contract so it'll match up to fiscal years?
We can match them up, but what will end up happening is you'll actually take your increase sooner next year. Yes, we can do that. But again, it's your money, so it's not really an increase. It's you're going to spend what you spend, but they'll.
Mr. Cully, could you or Mr. Parton follow up to see what that impact would be? Because we really want to be on the same fiscal year if we can.
Sure, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It'll help from a budgetary perspective.
Helps our budget. There was a question, Mrs. Seeley?
I guess I have one question with the Affordable Care Act and providing health insurance. I know that providing health insurance in some cases, depending on the plan, becomes a Cadillac plan, which becomes taxable to those that are in it. Do we know in January, since this medical plan is going to span 2013 and 2014, January 2014, will this be considered a Cadillac plan, therefore making our employees have to count that as income and be taxed on it?
No, sir, and the Cadillac tax doesn't come into effect till 2018. That rolls in 18. Yeah, in 2014, part of I hope I don't want to open up a whole can of worms here, but part of the 15% is also we had to take into consideration that there are some people that may come on to the plan. Today, you have people who are waiving coverage and not accepting coverage, even though you're offering it, and you're offering it at a very affordable rate. They've either walking around without insurance, or they've decided they don't need insurance, or for whatever reason, they're not on your plan. Come 1/1/2014, which is the greater part of our budgetary increase for the next fiscal year, those people will be fined and penalized by the federal government if they do not participate in a health care plan. So we're making some assumptions that some of those folks will come into your plan, and as that happens, there'll be an increase in cost to this organization, to this county.
All right. Anybody have any questions? I mean, again, any other questions? Kind of obvious. We've got to move ahead and do this. So a motion to go ahead and approve our new plan would be in order.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Underwood, second by Mr. Seeley. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Parton and Ms. Grasso. Appreciate it. Next order of business is the discussion of proposed lifting of the moratorium on uranium mining. Mr. James.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, good to be with you again, 2 meetings in a row. At the last meeting, we talked about the regional legislative platform. And an issue that was not discussed in the development of that platform was the question of whether or not the General Assembly should consider lifting the moratorium on uranium mining and related activities. Here in the last couple of months, let's see, some of your neighbors to the west who are part of our regional group have passed resolutions opposing the lifting of the moratorium. Madison County, Orange County, Fauquier County, the town of Orange, Rappahannock-Rapidan Regional Commission. Culpeper County has not passed a resolution, but they did meet with their delegation and expressed unanimous concern about the lifting of the moratorium. That's generated really because that area of the state has significant deposits. Some of you will remember 25 plus years ago when the moratorium was being discussed, former Councilman Gordon Shelton from the city of Fredericksburg was a major champion in raising the issue throughout our region and to the west and pushing for the moratorium. I've been asked how our localities feel. I sent out an email about the time the General Assembly was getting underway, asking. I received input back from those. Also, that Spotsylvania County has taken no position. Rappahannock County really has not considered it and doesn't feel the need to. They are upstream from those deposits. Stafford County has not considered the issue, and I haven't received a response from either Fredericksburg or King George at this point. This is a question, not an advocating position from my perspective. It's a data point, a position of not lifting the moratorium, or no position, all are fine. It's a data point for me because I'm being asked the question, and that's the reason for the request.
Well, obviously, we haven't discussed it, nor have I polled the board, so we're going to do that now. How do you feel about lifting the moratorium?
Mr. Chairman, I just my own personal opinion, I don't think we should take a position. First of all, I personally don't know enough information about this, and I think as a board we have bigger priorities than, for our own locality than uranium mining. So
That's fine.
That's
There's no right or wrong answer.
Right,
It's just
yeah.
what's our opinion. So, Mrs. Seeley?
Mr. Chairman, I was aware that this was going on again. I haven't read or followed this. It hasn't been asked. Nobody has asked me what I think or my position. Right now, I really don't have one because I haven't done any work or study on it.
Mr. Underwood?
Again, I concur with my two colleagues. I haven't read anything about it, don't know much about it, so I'm not sure what opinion I should take.
We do a little bit. We need to
more
look
research.
a little more before we have an opinion. Ms. Akers?
I'm not sure how it impacts Caroline County. I'm all about what impacts Caroline County, and I'm just not sure that it is going to impact us, and I'm not sure we need to pass a resolution. I'd rather see us spend more time on transportation issues and things such as that, the tolling of 95 and what have you, because that does impact Caroline County in its citizens.
Ms. Taylor?
I guess my only concern is, as my colleagues, I don't know that much about it. I do know that there have been some citizens in some of the areas that I represent that have had some concerns about it. Again, I don't know what it entails. I don't know what it involves. I don't know whether it's going to create negative things for Caroline County. If it is, then I think we ought to look at taking a position. But we can't do that until we know those things for sure.
Well, my opinion is totally different because I think Virginia, being a Dillon Rule state, since the legislature hasn't given me permission to think about this, I can't think about it until they give me permission, which is basically the same thing because now they want me to give an opinion on something I can't have an opinion on. So I don't think we're going to have an opinion right now.
That gives me the information I need, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and thank you. That's perfectly fine. Do we want to take the other issue while I'm standing here, or?
I thought I was going to do that. Or you want to do that? Okay. I'm just teasing. Board members have in their packet agenda item number 5. While Mr. James is here, we could take up agenda item 5 now if that's the board's wish. Basically, we are in the same position we were last meeting.
Well, slightly better position, actually.
We've got a few more dollars.
Got a few more dollars.
But you're still looking at doing 24 of 27?
Probably, what we would like is authorization to execute the contract
As
and
is.
any immediate change order that we might need to do. It would probably get us 24, 25 homes. I have representative of the engineer here if you've got technical questions. And we have, since our last meeting, we secured another $9,000 from DEQ. And we've got about 4 more sources that we're going after. And I expect that over the coming months, and we'll have a 6-month contract period, so we've got time to work this, but we're on top of it now. We've done pretty well in a few weeks. So
Any problem with doing this now? Motion, ready to do it now, or Mr. Underwood?
Mr. James, you know my concern, right?
yes, sir.
Okay, so I won't belabor.
You challenged us, and we accepted that challenge.
I think you're doing quite well with it also, I might add. So hopefully we'll get to the 400%, and I'll be happy. But I won't be happy with 99.9, as you know.
You have made that very clear.
Okay.
So, Mr. Underwood, we're going to need a motion to approve the contract.
651, right?
No. We don't have six. We don't have
533, I
61.
mean. Was it 5?
533-206 was the number, right?
Is that right?
Well,
Actually,
he's got more. He added more.
If you want to make it, and I'll let somebody here correct me, and I'll look to the attorney if I'm wrong, for the funds that are available, because by the time we get to the paperwork, we may have landed another, and rather than come back each time, but
Okay, funds
if
available.
the attorney's comfortable.
We have
McKenna.
we have 533-206 as funds available in our packet, right? That's what I see. Okay, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about funds available. So, Mr. Underwood, you're going to make a motion to that effect.
Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion that we award the bid based on the fund available.
Based on funds available. Is there a
Second.
second? Motion made by Mr. Underwood, second by Mr. Akers. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Discussion?
Go ahead.
If you look on that page, it says I see number 557-206.
Yeah, that's what he has on the last number. On the first one was 533. But we said based on funds available.
Okay.
Because he's,
No further.
Yeah, funds available, because we, in
he's collecting
late
money
last
now.
week, we had DEQ step up and say, we can scrape $9,000 more to put in it. And that happened literally as we were preparing this report to you. So by the end of this week, our number may even be better. And it,
Oh, just to clarify something, maybe I'm a little bit. The 522-875 and then the 557-206. Is that difference? Or is that counting money or?
no.
That's
no,
all
no,
his
no,
last,
no.
remember his last meeting, he said he got $9,000
Okay,
from
that's
here,
the other.
money
That's
from
the
there.
other extra money.
Right.
He's still 64,000 short from to the whole project.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So that would come from all that. No, it wouldn't be a penny from county, right?
That's the challenge that has been put before us.
Okay.
We will not ask you for additional funds, and we will do our level best to get all 29 homes connected. So it's either we're going to find other cost savings, or we're going to find other sources of revenue. And at this point, we've landed 3 other sources
Okay.
to help close that gap.
And you have 6 months time frame in which to get
We
that.
have a 6-month construction period, yes, sir. And so we'll be back before you for a change order, because during that construction period, we anticipate closing that gap farther.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just to my colleague, I made it abundantly clear to Mr. James our position in terms of the county does not have any additional funds to put toward this project, so we're going to have to have other funding sources. So, hope that answers the question.
Okay. All set. There's no further discussion was again made. The motion was again made by Mr. Underwood, seconded by Mr. Akers. No more unreadiness discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. James, and we appreciate you letting us move that up. We got appointments, consent, and then public comment. We're going to have 2 closed meetings during our break. So you want to try to do these last 2? The last 2 should be good. All right. The 2 appointments are really not county employees, I seem to recall, or board members. They are, I lost track of it. Here we go. Yeah, the Community Policy Management Team. I think, wasn't that Mr. Parton all the time? And you need a Caroline High School Improvement Task Force.
Michelle Richardson recommended.
Who is? Yeah. Is that what the board members want? Mrs. Richardson
I make a motion that we
has
appoint.
childcare in her home, so she qualifies.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we appoint Ms. Michelle Richardson
Richardson,
to the CAEMT board.
second.
Second.
Mr. Black. Motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Black, to appoint Michelle Richardson to the board for the Community Policy Management Team. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. We're going to try one more time to talk about the Caroline High School Improvements Design Task Force. Any board members have anyone they would like to have on that task force?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
You have one, Mr. Black?
Yes, I do.
You have one, Mr. Akers, you have one? All right, well, let's take them all and we'll go from there. Mr. Black?
My name is Mr. John Gresham.
John Gresham?
John Gresham.
Do you have his contact information?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Should we pass that to Mr. Seeley?
Mr. Frank G.
Frank G., I'm sure we have his contact information. Mr. Akers?
George Weaver.
George Weaver?
Carlton Lewis.
And we talked, we met with the school board this morning. I think they're trying to, Mr. Wright is trying to get in touch with you via email. Okay. So if we want to take, then I was the one from Mattapanai, so I don't. Well, we can find somebody better. I'd like us to. So we'll take one motion with all those names, if you would, please. Who wants to make it?
So, Mr. Thomas, you're going to be your committee member? Did I hear you right? I wasn't sure. You were looking that way.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
that's what I said. Mrs. Carson and I were at the 2-on-2 meeting, and she basically said, why don't you do it? So I don't have to be if there's a problem.
I wasn't sure what you were saying when you were looking that way.
All right, and as a matter of fact, I think I'll just take me as a placeholder.
Okay.
And then we'll talk again and try to find somebody else.
I thought that was the reason for the committee, was someone that,
Yeah, okay.
your degrees in architect, and I don't see any problem with you serving on the committee myself.
Okay.
You and your school board member have agreed that that's,
Yeah, we're
that's
good.
the person.
We're good. Okay, so is there a motion to those names, and we'll.
So moved.
We'll grab Mr. Under.
Second.
All right, motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr. Taylor. Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Consent, anything pulled off the consent agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented, A through F.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Akers, to approve the entire consent agenda as presented. Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously, and we will take probably about a 20-minute break, and the board has to convene and close meeting pursuant to the prospective business exemption of Section 2.2-3711A5 Code of Virginia to discuss potential businesses in the Ladysmith and Carmel Church areas of the county about which no previous public announcement has been made. Yeah. Okay. That was the motion.
I so move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Akers, seconded by Mr., excuse me, how do you like that? Motion made by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Akers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries, and now you know how I feel. I'm sorry. You ready, Pam? We'll reconvene the January 22nd board meeting. Again, our apologies. We had a closed meeting, actually two that ran a little bit longer. So our next order of business is actually our 7:30 public comment section. Oh, thank you very much. Before we do that, we'll have to take a motion to close the closed meeting and then certify. So, motion to close the closed meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I'll take that as a motion by Mr. Underwood, second by Mr. Taylor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Black, do you certify that only those things we went under closed session were discussed?
I so certify.
Mr. Seeley?
I so certify.
Mr. Underwood?
I so certify.
Mr. Akers?
I so certify.
Mr. Taylor?
I so certify.
And I so certify. Having completed that, we will now move to the public comment section. This time, is there any member of the public who would like to address the board on any matter in the county? If you would, please come forward, state your name and just your voting district, no addresses, just your voting district.
Melissa Lewis, Bowling Green.
Ms. Lewis.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, gentlemen of the board. Last year, I stood up here speaking out against the YMCA and the negative impact I felt it had on the schools. But I consider myself an open-minded person, and so I stepped back and I reevaluated my stance on the YMCA. And after getting more information and after speaking to others in the community, I decided that if the YMCA was going to be in Caroline, then it should be successful. And I would do my part to support in any way I could. There's been a lot of positive feedback, and I've talked to others about the opening. Often the often positive feedback, I often get positive feedback in places that I was once hearing negativity. The Y recently announced they will start holding Tai Chi classes at their storefront in the Lady Smith Shopping Center, and the construction of the building seems to be coming along nicely. All the pieces are falling into place, and everybody's anticipation is building, waiting for the opening, hopefully in late spring or early summer. The reason I was so hesitant to support a YMCA in Caroline last year was because I felt that borrowing $5 million for the building of the YMCA was fiscally irresponsible in times like these when schools are in such need of improvements. But Mr. Akers pledged to raise money through capital campaigns to pay back the loan without any taxpayer money and without any negative impact on our taxes. And from what I know of Mr. Akers, he is an honest and upstanding man, and I believe he will stand by his word. And so with that, I would respectfully ask, and I believe that citizens deserve, for an update on the progress of those capital campaigns. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Mr. Bean, come forward and state your name and your voting district, please.
My name is George Bean. I'm in the Mattapanai district, as I've said before, so ably represented by Mr. Thomas. I've presented all of you with my comments on the radio system in written form. I would just like to take a moment to read a portion of that into the record. I'd like to say that Motorola, in conjunction with the members of the county's radio committee, has done a commendable job of cutting the fat and some of the meat out of its original $10.3 million 700 megahertz system proposal. Having given up things like secure voice and some redundancy, reverted to reconditioned handheld radios, and relocated sites to preferred underutilized Hanover County facilities has reduced the price tag by nearly 40%. Asking the county services that utilize the system or Motorola for further concessions is just not acceptable. Neither vendors nor employees should bleed for the sake of a few $100,000 at this point. I have no idea where the magic $6 million budget number came from, but getting the price tag down to within 10% of that number is excellent work by all involved. It's time to respect that work and approve the funds to execute a contract with Motorola. And I hope you will do so tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bean. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Come, please just state your name and your voting district, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Mike Duncan, Mattapanai District. I'm also the emergency coordinator for Caroline County Emergency Communications. I'm here to commend the board on an employment program that you have here in the county for your fire and rescue and law enforcement. I don't know if you've noticed, but we have the finest law enforcement fire and rescue personnel that's available. Because of your package that you have, we have individuals who are retiring in other counties, coming to Caroline County to be a part of this team. This is a team, and when you got a winning team, you got professionals who want to be on that winning team. What Sheriff Lippa's done, Chief Loft has done in fire and rescue and law enforcement is commendable. And we have those personnel from other counties coming in seeking employment in this county. And they're becoming employees. We've got the finest paramedic course in the state, most likely. Second to none. Another thing that we have women in fire and rescue that are outnumbering men in medical fields in the paramedic course. And it's just growing what we've done for the female employees in this county. It's just a great thing which we have here. A team, a winning team. The only thing I'm asking here of this group here this evening is compliment this winning team, these law enforcement and fire and rescue personnel, with this 700 megahertz radio system that will give them what they need when they need it. That's basically all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board regarding any matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak to the board regarding any matter? I thought you were getting up, Kevin. Last call. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding any matter? Hearing none, we will declare the public comment section to be closed. We're going to obviously do work on the radio system today, and Ms. Lewis, like we said before, as we make things happen, like the capital campaign for the Y, we'll post those things on our county website, and we'll make sure you have a chance to see those. So I'm going to ask Mr. Akers, I'm sure you're a little closer to that campaign right now. As data comes, would you pass it to Mr. Culley so we can post that on our website? Okay. Thank you. Our next agenda item is public hearing. Agenda item number 4, Mr. Fincham will come forward as Special Exception 03-2012. DeLiz or D-Liz? The owner, Norton Enterprises applicant.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your public hearing tonight is SPEX 03-2012. Requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, and Article 10, Sections 3.16 and 3.19 of the Caroline County Zoning Ordinance. The subject property is located at 14,144 Jefferson Davis Highway in the Port Royal voting district. The proposed use is a motor vehicle repair facility, major, and a tow storage lot. The 2030 comprehensive plan designates this area as rural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land. The applicant is requesting a special exception permit to allow a motor vehicles repair facility and a tow storage lot at 14,144 Jefferson Davis Highway. The subject property is zoned M1 and contains approximately 6 acres. The applicant intends to utilize approximately 2 of the 6 acres for the proposed businesses. Surrounding properties are all zoned rural preservation. Dominion Power Substation is located to the, it says east, but it's actually south of this property. The applicant currently operates Norton Enterprises, LLC, which is a contractor, and he stores and hauls mulch and gravel at this facility. Mr. Norton also operates a tow service operation from this site, which utilizes 4 trucks, 2 wreckers for smaller vehicles and 2 wreckers for larger tractor-trailer type vehicles, which are permitted uses by right in the M1 zoning district. Prior to the current business, the property was the site of Peck Recycling, which was actually the basis for the M1 zoning on this property. In order to repair vehicles and or store towed vehicles on the site, special exception permit is required in accordance with sections 3.16 and 3.19 of the zoning ordinance. The existing shop building will be utilized for vehicle repair, and the applicant is proposing a 30 by 30 tow storage lot area to be located to the south side of the shop building. The shop building is equipped to drain damaged vehicles of fluids leaking prior to placement in the lot. The applicant has indicated that the majority of the towed vehicles will remain on site for no more than 7 days. However, certain vehicles are required by law to remain in storage for at least 30 days. The facility would also be subject to the standards of Article 15, Section 8.H for tow storage lots if approved by the board. And those requirements were incorporated by the Planning Commission in their recommendation for approval. The Planning Commission held its public hearing on July 18, 2012. There were no speakers either in favor of or in opposition to this application. After discussion concerning the conditions, the Planning Commission voted unanimously to forward this request to the board with a recommendation subject to the conditions that were included in your staff report. Subsequent to the Planning Commission's recommendation, staff met with the applicant to clarify some of the comments that were made to the Planning Commission and to further clarify the conditions. And those clarifications and the additional condition are included in your staff report. If the board sees fit to approve this special exception permit, then we would recommend all of the conditions as modified in that recommendation. With that, I'll answer any questions that the board may have.
Board members at this time have any questions for Mr. Fincham specifically? No questions?
Yeah, well, hold on. I've got actually a couple. As far as fencing around like one of these lots, is it typical for board fencing or vinyl fencing, or what's the? Is there a requirement on tow lots to usually require? I mean, or is that?
Fencing is required. The type of fencing is subject in some cases to the Highway Corridor Overlay District. In this case, Mr. Norton actually has some landscaping in place along the Route 1 that will help serve to buffer the site, but is required to install additional fencing around the tow storage lot itself. And I believe we have a condition that recommends an 8-foot tall fence there.
I do see that. Now, I mean, because the board-on-board fencing obviously is not probably going to last as long as vinyl fencing. Now, is that something, if that falls into just a repair, the county goes after, or what's the?
If that is a standard of the ordinance or a requirement in terms of a condition imposed by the board during the approval process, then yes, the maintenance of that type of fence is required to continue to meet the requirements of the ordinance.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Chairman, second thing, there was a letter in here regarding the, I guess, the septic system or the sewer system.
Yes, sir.
And can you, because the disposal system, can you clarify that for
Yes,
me?
sir. The health department could not find any record in their records where there was an approved sewage disposal system for the site. If the board approves a special exception permit, they still have to complete the minor site plan process for the additional uses as well as to obtain their certificate of occupancy. Prior to final approval, they would have to demonstrate that they have health department approval for that site. So yes, they flagged that that's an issue. That's something that we take care of during the site plan and permitting process to ensure that they have the proper sewage disposal permit from the health department.
So no business in that property without this, correct? I mean, with the towing business without this, correct?
Correct. They have to satisfy that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Taylor?
Not a question. I just basically, in regard to Mr. Black's question about the fencing, the additional condition under 23 says that if the existing fencing should fail for whatever reason, then they would be held to whatever the standard is. So that might help to clarify what Mr. Black was speaking of also. That's on page 4. All right, and that's all I have at this time.
Okay, no other questions for Mr. Fincham? Thank you, Mr. Fincham. We will be there. So we will now, at this time, declare the public hearing for special exception 03-2012, Norton Enterprise applicant to be open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? If you would, please just state your name and voting district. Mr. Norton.
My voting district is Madison. My business is in Port Royal, Taylor. My name is Bo Norton with Norton Enterprise, LLC. And I was here to answer any questions that anybody would have concerning the facility for the storage lot or the major repair shop.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. If you were going to wait, if you could wait in the front row, we'll finish the public hearing, make sure nobody else has anything to say, and then I'm sure there may be a question or two for you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, the public hearing is declared closed. Board members at this time have questions of Mr. Fincham and or the applicant.
I don't have a question, Mr. Chairman. I can say that I did visit the facility, the business. I looked at it. It's a well-run business. Mr. Norton has agreed to the conditions that are listed, and I just don't see any reason not to allow him to do what he's asking. I don't know if other board members have questions or not, but if they do, then we'll hear from them, and then I'll make a motion.
Mr. Sealer, you had a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I understand that there's already a business being operated there, Mr. Fincham.
Yes, sir.
And I guess I'm concerned in that the health department says that they don't have pump and haul, and they don't have a septic system. So I don't understand how this gets to us until that gets fixed, since it's already an existing business.
That issue would appear to date back to when Peck Recycling was operating out of that facility. We actually have a building permit application that's in process now. That have you gotten any update on the well and septic? No,
I guess it's operating as a business today without a septic. And I guess I have an issue with that because it was a business before, and it looks like it was never really completed. So I don't know why
that's entirely possible.
I don't know why we're moving forward today until this issue's resolved.
Well, as I said, we have a permit that's pending for their new office building now, if you recall.
Well, I also recall that this was pulled in, November, that was set for public hearing, and the night we came, it was pulled.
Yes, sir.
So we've gone from November to January, and we still haven't resolved these issues. And I think these issues should be resolved before we move forward.
Okay.
Are they close enough to connect to the county system?
No, sir. This is well north near the Spotsylvania County, not far from the Spotsylvania County line. There's no county utilities in this area.
Okay. But I mean, I'd like to see the facility brought up to the level of standard as a business today, because it's already operating, and it's historically been a business. I can't see going forward till that issue is resolved, because it's been lingering for years at this point. Those are my comments, Mr. Chairman.
Any other comments? Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Fincham, let's say the board didn't pass this special exception. What is our position on them not being up to code and still operating the business?
We will go back to the health department and work with them to in terms of their permit to bring that up to code prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy for their repair/replacement of their office building.
No, I think you still didn't get my question. I said, what if we say no, we're not going to approve this special exception? Are we going to continue to allow them to operate without pump and haul and without septic system?
No, sir. They would have to come back to the county if they could not get health department approval for a drain field. They would have to come back to the county and try to get a pump and haul permit under the auspices of the Board of Supervisors. If the board then says no, we are not going to issue a or allow you to utilize the board's pump and haul permit, then we have to go through the process of potentially saying, no, you can't occupy that site because you don't have an approved means of sewage disposal.
One second, because I want to make sure I understand now. As an existing business, forget the special exception, as an existing business, right now, they're running under what sounds like is the grandfathering from PEC Recycling. Is that
What the health department said was they could not find any paperwork that says there is an approved sewage disposal permit there. Okay? So we're in the process now of trying to verify whether there is a permit or whether a new permit has to be issued.
Okay. Which is,
Which would
go ahead.
which would require an AOSE to go out, inspect the site, and determine the suitability of the soils for a septic system.
Okay. Which really doesn't have an impact on this special exception. Special exception is a little different than rezoning. We're not rezoning the land, so even without that issue, the rezoning would carry on. Special exception is going to have a time period, theoretically. We can have a review period. If he doesn't have the septic issue resolved, the special exception would then go away or something like that. We could do that.
One of the conditions of the SE requires compliance with all applicable agency regulations. So there's a requirement in there for the expansion, okay, or for the additional uses that you've got to have health department approval. We have a permit pending now for the office, which burned down some time back, and they've come in and applied for a permit to replace that structure. Okay. They have to give us evidence of health department approval prior to them even getting a certificate of occupancy for that structure.
Okay, yes, I have a couple of questions. Mr. North, can you shed some light on, because I want to make sure that I have the correct, I guess, assumption as far as what we're talking about now. Can you shed some light on that?
As far as the septic, all our records got burned up a year and a half ago when the office burnt down. But we've been in the property for 8.5 years, and we've had the septic pumped twice in 8.5 years. We have, but we don't have a pump and carry or nothing like that. I mean, the septic has been working fine. I remember something being done when we moved in the place 8.5 years ago. When we occupied the thing to prove for Norton Enterprise and the trucking company that's already there where we do work in the shop. And at the time when we got the property, everything went through fine, and we had an OP for that building before it burnt down. But when the new building burnt, it took me 1.5 years to build the new building, get it put in place, and the septic's been hooked up, and the septic's still working. And I was understanding that we were, before I got my OP, that there was somebody coming from the health department to approve the septic. But I mean, as far as I know, is what's anything with the septic tank works, everything works. I can't tell you anything about it.
Okay, Mr. Norton, you've been in business there 8.5 years?
8.5 years, yes, sir.
You have not had a problem in 8.5 years that you know of?
I haven't had a problem with it backing up, or what you want to call it. I've had it pumped twice in 8.5 years.
Okay.
But every 4 years, we've had it pumped.
Okay, and you've paid all your fees to the county, and all of the financial gains that the county has made off of your business.
That's correct.
Have been paid,
yes, sir,
over the last 8.5 years.
Yes, sir.
All right, and I guess that's one of the concerns that I have. The other concern that I have is Mr. Norton cannot operate his business unless the health department says that he is in compliance. So I fail to see where that has anything to do with us approving his special exception. We can approve his special exception based on the conditions that we have listed here. If it is determined that he is not in compliance as far as the health department is concerned, he'll not be able to operate anywhere.
They're welcome to come. I mean,
So
we're ready,
I don't see where that's an issue. Our approving this